Welcome back to Pod Popper's Place and Card Sketches 4 through 6.
So let's figure out how this layout goes. Alright, so this is the layout. Let's see what other options we have. We do have the option of using this side, but I think I like all this Minecraft green together. It's kind of fun. And this is a vellum piece, which, you know, vellum doesn't really go with Minecraft. So we'll have to figure out what else we can do there to kind of give it that same effect, and we'll have to figure out if we're going to which character. I still have this character who's done being stamped, but he's not quite finished being colored. But I don't know, he's kind of a sad looking guy. My son didn't know who he was, so kind of be fun to have another creeper because there's just so much of that on there. But we'll see. I'm gonna have to stamp some more and color some more and come back to show you what the finished product looks like. So my solution for the vellum centerpiece is I did cut out a regular piece of just white, kind of clearish vellum, but then on the back side, I used a Copic marker, and on the back side, I colored it in pretty heavily. I went over it a few times with the broad tip, and it does take a little bit to dry, so you want to make sure and let it dry completely before you use it or try to stick it down. But as you can see, it still gives this kind of see-through effect, but it's got that color behind it, so it keeps it looking kind of the same translucent, but with that color, so it doesn't look so like feminine. I just find vellum, I like vellum, but it tends to be more feminine, so this is the way I'm going to kind of alter that so that it goes along more with our little video game theme. So I have colored and cut out all of my stamped images. It's pretty funny. Coloring zombies is not as easy as you would think. And I don't know if I got these eyes right. I did look at the Sassy Stamps website and, or Sassy Club, yeah, Sassy Stamps, Club Stamps, the Sassy Club Stamps. For some of the inspiration, and they had the eyes colored differently, so maybe I did it wrong, or I don't know. There's no wrong way, right? And the sword actually looks different, but that's okay. So I have some images. I think I probably will use this one because it's nice and big on this circle. Thought about, you know, using a little word, yay, or yeah. And I kind of like, so this is the vellum side, and it's very muted, kind of like this shinier side here that I colored on. So I'm not really sure, you know, which side I'll go with, but this is my background layer, and then I cut out a shape out of the center, and then this is my top layering piece, and then my strips for the challenge will go on top of this. I think I did have some issues trying to line these up right because I think I had put not enough space in between last time. So it is a good idea to line these up. Sorry, I have cat hair everywhere. My Kit Kat likes to sneak in here sometimes. End result here, something like that, or maybe something like this. I don't know, what do you think? I don't know, I just kind of like the roughness of this, like it's just more dirty looking, I guess, like dirt. Anyway, that will be card sketch number 4. So the good news of putting this together is that they're all straight because I'm using my T-ruler. The bad news is the spaces in between are just not consistent. So, you know, it is what it is. But So I'd say that's the challenge to you, is to try to line these up, you know, with consistent spacing, but also, you know, don't fret about it if you don't. So I decided to go with the lighter side rather than the colored side because I was worried that putting any glue or anything on it might make it like spread or get runny or, you know, and get everywhere. So, and then I am putting it up on some foam tape, and I held it up to the light. When you hold it up to the light, it's pretty translucent, and then you can see where to put the foam tape, so there's not going to be showing anywhere where there's not the image. So, and I did put this up on a little bit of foam tape as well. And I did use some black foam tape just so it wouldn't be so obvious with these darker colors. I'm just having a hot mess here with my fingernails and it's dry. It's so bitterly cold. We don't even have school tomorrow because the bitter cold is just ridiculous. And so yeah, I got to work from home tomorrow because of that. I'll put this down a little bit. I know it's not kind of right in front of his mouth, but you know, I'd normally probably put it up here or something, but I just don't want to put that there. I don't want to just have it right. Okay, I'm gonna put it right there. All right, so yeah, yay, yeah. Which one is that? Do you say yay? Like yay, or is it yeah? Or is it, I don't know. So is it a yes? Is it a woohoo? It's your birthday? Yay, it's your birthday? Or is it a yeah, I beat you? I don't know. But this card sketch number 4 done. So it's crazy, freakishly cold today. There's a storm about to hit the south, so you probably know what I'm talking about. So we are out of school today, and it's really cold in my craft room. So if you hear the heater going with these negative temperatures, it's, yeah, the heater's not been able to keep up. So anyway, I'm working on sketch number 5, and I'm going to use the black side rather than the green side, and I've used my just a regular black marker to, you know, go around the edges and try to cover up that white edge that's kind of showing. Wouldn't matter as much on the green side, I think, but on the black side it kind of stands out a lot. So I did that, and then I had this piece that I cut out as a background before, and I have these two little things I colored. I have this guy and his sword, but I think I'm going to use this little bee and the little cube, and I think I'm going to make another little medallion thing to go on the center here. It says any object, so I'm going to anchor these objects on here so they're not just random, and I think I'm going to use this little sentiment that says game on. It does call for 2 different kinds of paper on the back. It does call for one to be embossed. I don't know if I want to emboss anything, so we'll see. But I have these 2 strips that are left over from cutting my papers down, and obviously these sides don't really work to kind of go by themselves. I mean, I guess it could, but let's see, 1.5 by 5. These are 2 inches, and 2.25 by 5. So there's actually 3 layers here. So these together make 4 inches, which is a little bit more than I need by 1/4 inch. And then there's 2 more layers behind it. So that's kind of a lot of layers on this card. So this is when cutting out some of the back layers helps with the weight and thickness of it a little bit. But I think that, I could use this because you're not really gonna see that much of it. And then use a plain piece of cardstock for this side and emboss it. But I'm not sure if I have an embossing folder that would really look good with this. So let me see what I have, and I'll be back. All right, I think we're gonna go with this bee theme. I don't think it's too obviously bee, it's just kind of shaped. And the yellow kind of ties that bee kind of together. And this other layer of this medallion die is quite small compared to the next size. So I don't think I'm missing any, but it sure seems like it could use it one in between. So I went ahead and cut a regular circle out to kind of go in between those layers, and that helps tie in the yellow and the green. And because this is supposed to be 1.5 by 5, which I cut it to that size, but this is supposed to be 2 1/4, but because it was a scrap, it was 2. So in order to compensate for that, I cut the other background that I had originally planned to use, but I think this would go better. The other one's just too, I don't know, didn't work. So I cut it off this, so it's just got these little tiny faces, and you're rarely going to see it, but it does kind of gives a little bit of that green hiding behind. So that will be my first layer, my second layer, and my third layer. And I haven't cut any backs out of these yet, but I probably will. I don't have a lot of this green paper left, and I really like it. So definitely want to conserve that. So I'm going to cut the backgrounds out of here, but before I do that, I'm going to show you, I'm just going to flip these all over because they're just kind of sliding all over the place. I'm going to flip them over so that I can tape them on the back side, and they won't be sliding around so much, and I can have them lined up evenly. I do a very good job taping that. So let's try one more little piece up here. And of course, with the embossing folder, it kind of puffs up and doesn't lay as flat. So definitely want to secure that so that it doesn't slide around. And it looks like it's, sometimes I think when you emboss papers, it like thickens it or spreads it out a little bit, so it's like slightly longer than these other papers. I feel like there's too much light showing through. So I'm trying to line that up a little bit closer. Line this up a little bit closer too. And I will probably try to trim that down. It's not a lot, and maybe it'll be hidden, but I don't know, sometimes try to trim that little bit off sometimes causes problems with cutters. So we'll see if we can trim that down slightly, and then I will come back and show you when I get closer to the final results. I want to show you that if you don't have large dies, that maybe you're newer to card making, and so you don't have large dies that will give you this nice just frame basically, you can do it by hand with a trimmer. So you do need to have this type of trimmer where you can cut partway into your paper. So because I need to have a frame that will fit this, I don't want to go, I can go pretty far, so but I need to have at least be it needs to be under 5, so like 4.5 by let's see, it's 2 1/4 plus 1.5, so 3.5, 3 3/4, so like a 4 by 4.5 area. So I can go in, this is 5 1/4. So if I go in to 4 1/4, and I'm going to start about, I have this marking here as well. So if I start at 4 1/4 and I need 3 3/4 width, so if we go 3.5, and this is 4, so if I go over 1/4 inch in, and right now I'm at 1 inch in, so I'm good. So I don't want to go past, I just start here and then go about, not quite to the 8, or 6, sorry, that's a 6. I'm just going to go about there, and then I lift this up and turn it, and I know I can go 3, I need 3 3, this is why I usually write it down, 3.5, 3 3/4. So if I go 3 1/4, and I can start about here, and I know I can go about to inch or so. And I'm not going to get a huge, you know, piece out of my middle here, but you're basically just making a rectangle inside of your paper. And sometimes you just need to make sure that you go all the way to the edge. So here I didn't quite go to the edge, so I can just take a little pair of scissors. I don't really want to try and line it up again. You can, but if I just take a little pair of scissors and snip that, then I've cut it out to the center. Now it's not as close as it could be. If I had written down the measurements, I could have gotten a more accurate size. But now I've taken out the center. I have a decent sized piece here that I can use for another project, and cuts down on the weight as well. And then I will just use these frames and layer them up. And then you will never see that. So that's another way, if you don't have dies, to get that center out. Now, if you are worried about, you know, this caving in kind of, because you've got, you know, 3 layers here and it starts to stack up, you can just take this is a piece of scrap paper. The paper didn't print right, and I can just cut a piece and, you know, glue that in there and kind of give it a little bit more stability, and don't have to worry about that kind of getting crushed a little bit. It depends on, you know, what are you using the card for. Layers of cardstock are different. Some are thicker than others and some are thinner. So, but if you wanted to give it a little more stability and are worried about that, then that's a way you can save the paper that you want to save and use some of the scraps that you aren't going to use for anything else. So gives them some purpose. To get these lined up properly, I'm going to try and you know, lay them out, and they kind of seem to go closer to this one side than the other. Trying to make them separated evenly. Kind of might have to eyeball that, but I can use my T-ruler to at least get this edge lined up, so even if the other portion, the spacing in between isn't exact, at least they're lined up properly. Right. So everything is glued and sturdy now, and I glued my layers together here, and I'm going to put this, I'm probably putting a little bit over more this way than the sketch calls for, but I want to have room to put this, I kind of want to put it over here, but maybe I'll put it over there, we'll see. I did pop up this little bee on a little bit of foam tape, just so that he's up off that block a little bit. And then I'm going to stamp this, and it probably looks like it's going to have to come over here. It doesn't call for a sentiment, but just to kind of go with our gaming video game theme here, I think I do want to add this fun little sentiment. And then this card really could be for anything, right? Game on, could be just about anything. So, all right, that is card sketch number 5. I am working on card sketch number 6 for Canvas Card Challenge number 21 that ends in just a couple weeks, and I have cut out and colored this little guy from a set of stamps that I have. It says I sort of miss you, and even though this is not Minecraft themed, it's still a sword, and I thought it'd be fun to use him. I should have used a color for his cape and stuff that kind of matched this blue-green, but I kind of forgot that I was going to use him on here, and so, but I think it'll still be fine. So I have everything cut out here, but before I lay out any of my pieces, I'm going to play with them a little bit and make sure I get them where I want them. So the smallest circle goes up kind of here. The medium circle kind of falls off the edge here a little bit, and then the largest circle will go in the bottom corner, and it kind of falls off more. And so you just want to make sure that this corner here is not showing, so you're just going to push it over and make sure that that's covered. And over here, I think I'm going to turn this a little bit because I've got kind of some frayed edges, so we'll use that part as our edges to cut off. And so once I have it kind of laid out how I want it, I think my sentiment will work here. I'll just have to trim it down and make sure it's the right size and get all these not nice corners and edges off, and then we will just put him right on top of that. Now that I have these all glued down, you can see the edges over there, so it's just barely covering that corner there, and I can cut off all of my excess areas. And I am using some scissors that resist stickiness, but they are getting kind of worn out, non-stick, but that after a long time of use, they are starting to lose that less stickiness. So they probably just need to be cleaned. And you can just throw these pieces away, even though I'd love to save scraps. Those are a little bit smaller than we really need to save. And it is all ready to go. I would say the only thing I should have maybe done was push it a little bit further out, because as you can see, I've got a little bit of my extra corner there from the layer. So I probably should have gone a little bit further over the corner so that does not show. So just FYI for your reference. It does blend in though to our background, so not really noticeable. And then we will get him laid down, and the sentiment strip is shorter than what is called for on the sketch, because the sketch sentiment would go all the way across. And it was long enough to do that, the piece was, but I just felt like there was a lot of white space on there and I didn't want to leave that whole thing. So I did trim it down, and that's not a huge deal. You are free to kind of change things around. And because our layers here, I think I will put some foam tape behind these so that they are nice and flat on the back. So I decided to layer up a couple scrap pieces just to put behind this area here. So I just glued them together and made sure it would fit, and then I'm going to glue it right where our sentiment is going to go. And then I'm going to add a little extra glue to this foam tape. It's just not the stickiest, before I go ahead and lay that on top there. And hopefully that will make that quite more flat than it would be if I had just gone directly over the that little extra edge there with those two layers. And it does stick up quite a bit. This is pretty thin foam tape, but I did double it up only because the foam tape that I'm using behind him is quite thick, and so I didn't want such a disparity between them. So this would probably want to be mailed in a padded envelope. Probably would take a little bit extra postage unless you were handing out in person, and then it would be fine. So